everybody, and welcome to Board Game Breakfast. We're back in normality. I know it's not so nice to look behind me and not see the beautiful Iceland skyscape, but hey, we're back to normal here. This is a normal week with normal stuff going on, and I cannot tell you how pleased I am about that. I'll be doing a live Q&A today at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so I hope to see you there. I'll just be answering your questions. I have a little bit of a trip planned today where we're checking something out for the future, so there's always that interesting thing. Essen is on the horizon. PAX is not too far behind that with the Dice Tower Retreats, Dice Tower Cruise, Dice Tower West. There's all kinds of cool things, but mostly there's a lot of cool games to play. I'm starting to see some of the games that are going to be released at Essen are showing up in the mail. Some of them look pretty exciting. You'll see some of them in unboxings this week. Just overall, woohoo! I'm excited to be here today. So let's get started with the news. So first of all, Warhammer 40,000 Munchkin has an expansion called Faith and Firepower. Again, this is one of those things I never thought would be like this big deal, but obviously people like mixing Warhammer into their Munchkin. All right, let's talk about things that I think y'all might be interested in. The Expanse has an expansion coming out. The Expanse expansion. Doors and Corners. This is coming out in February of next year. It's going to have 5 different modules to mix in. The Expanse has really gotten some buzz, not just because it's based on the IP, but Jeff Engelstein's game here from WizKids. It got compared to Twilight Struggle to some degree. This is still one I need to get played. Mississippi Queen was the Spiel des Jahres nominee, or winner, in 1997. That's almost 20 years ago I played this. It's like a steamboat river race. It's actually a pretty slow race. I think it works well. And Super Meeple is bringing it back. Super Meeple is the company that's been bringing back several of the older games like Tikal and things like that. So it will be interesting to see this one. I missed this news last week for whatever reason, but Z has been walking around for the past few weeks saying, they should be announcing a new pandemic soon, right? Where's this new pandemic? Well, they've announced it. Pandemic Fall of Rome, where there's 5 tribes moving throughout. Interestingly enough, this seems like when the Defenders of the Realm was first designed, and Richard Launius said, it's kind of like a pandemic. So they went to Matt Leacock and said, this is kind of based on pandemic a little bit. Is that okay? And he was okay with it, where these different fantasy races are moving around and kind of like the disease cubes in pandemic. And now we have the pandemic that is kind of doing that same thing, where you have these different tribes moving around. This will be interesting. It's getting a lot of buzz. It will be released at Essen. Pretzel Games. Pretzel Games is a division of Plan B, and they're basically dexterity games, flick 'em up, and so they have different games. The newest one is Men at Work. This is basically steel girders and meeples and stuff. It looks really cool. I like the pieces and the bits of their game, so I can't wait to play this one. The Deutscher Spielpreis, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, this is a award that people can vote on. The winner was Azul. Interestingly enough, they basically canceled voting because a famous video or a podcaster from Germany got online and told everyone to vote for Clank, and if they did, they could win a prize or whatever. So they were worried that would skew the results, so they basically cut out the voting from that. Yeah, I don't know how if you have a public vote, it's always going to be hard to stop campaigns, but Azul's a very popular game. Portal has announced Monolith Arena. This is a skirmish-style game. It's designed by the same guy who did Neuroshima Hex, and it looks a lot like Neuroshima Hex, so that makes Z interested. I'm interested because it's a skirmish game, and we're all interested because it's Portal Games. So there you have it. All right, let's go on to Kickstarter news.
Happy breakfast, everybody! Cool new projects are popping up basically daily on Kickstarter right now, so I've done my best to pull just a few of the projects that caught my eye for today's crowdfunding roundup. Stygian Society is a cooperative dungeon delve, or I should say tower climb. Players are members of the esteemed Stygian Society working to save the world from an evil wizard. As you climb the tower, you'll encounter more and more difficult enemies to combat. Each hero has unique skills, and as a team, you'll strive to conquer all the levels, including the 3rd-tier mini-boss and the wizard at the top of the tower. That 3D tower also serves as a cube tower. Players select a skill and an enemy, and that combo determines what cubes you drop down the tower. The cubes that come out the bottom determine the actions you and the enemy have available, and cubes that fall into the crypt count as double. There's also an optional tower laboratory expansion available in the campaign. Stygian Society has a thorough mythos, a great table presence, and is designed by the Kevin Wilson, and you can get a copy for a pledge of $54 plus shipping. Bee Lives We Will Only Know Summer is a worker placement and resource management game full of thematic elements. Players control their own hive and work to survive a year. You'll be scouting, foraging for resources, raiding and defending against raids, managing your hive storage for resources like honey, pollen, and water, and you even have to worry about bringing dirt into the hive because there's a disease track that you have to monitor. Queens provide different hive benefits depending on which one you use, and there are seasonal weather effects that can help or hinder your strategy. Bee Lives has a lot going on, and players have to have at least one surviving bee at the year's end in order to have a chance at winning. A copy of Bee Lives We Will Only Know Summer takes a pledge of $49 plus shipping. In the Artemis project, the moon Europa has been bioformed, and you're working to stabilize and colonize it. Centering on dice placement, you'll be using dice to gain minerals and energy, recruit colonists, and build ice-based and underwater structures. Sometimes dice contribute as a sort of bidding mechanism, and sometimes they'll flat out get you resources. But the exposure mechanism means if you go for high value and high reward, you risk getting nothing if the resource pool is drained before you get there. You'll also send colonists on rewarding expeditions, and there's a bit of collaboration because you have to fulfill it as a group, but only the player who contributes the most effort gets the extra individual rewards. On top of all of this, there are events that will throw challenges your way each round. You can get the Artemis project for a pledge of $55 plus shipping. Lockup from Thunderworks Games is a brand new game set in the world of Role Player. Players take on the role of imprisoned factions like goblins, insectoids, or bugbears, and you work to dominate the Kolbak prison. You'll work to keep guard suspicion down while you gain control of different locations throughout the prison, each of which provides different benefits for the dominant faction. You'll be collecting resources, hiring more crew, and building power items, all to gain reputation within the prison. The worker placement combined with kind of area dominance adds a lot of depth to the gameplay, and Lockup even includes a solo mode. You can get Lockup for a pledge of $39 plus shipping. And last but not least, Genius Games is back with another game based on real science, Periodic. With some pathing and resource management, Periodic has players spending energy to activate trends to move their pawn around the periodic table to collect elements. Ending movement on an element means that you've discovered it, and when you discover all the elements on a goal card, you'll earn a bonus token. You'll also be working to end movement within families of elements so that you can race up the academic achievement track for points. Genius Games' dedication to making games leveraging sound science combined with fun gameplay continues with Periodic, which you can get for a pledge as low as $29 plus shipping.
Alrighty, that's all I've got for you this episode. And with that, I have covered over 700 projects in the crowdfunding roundup over the last couple of years. I love Kickstarter, I love games, and I love talking about Kickstarter and games. But it's time for a change for me, so today is going to be my last crowdfunding roundup for Board Game Breakfast. I'm not going anywhere, I'm just going to kind of change where my energy is being thrown. So I'll be back next week with a board game app segment, and I've got a few other ideas up my sleeve as well. But I wanted to take a moment just to say thank you to all of you who have watched over the years, and to everyone who's ever left a comment or sent me a note saying that this coverage helped you discover a cool new project. Well, those really meant the world to me and always made me smile, so thank you for that. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week and play all the games.
Today we're going to go to the Libyan desert and try to take the ancient city of Tobruk on a specific date, May 26, 1941. And the game is Rommel at Gazala. Now this is a strategic game, and what I mean by strategic is that every single unit that you move may have 400 to 5,000 men. Also, each turn consists of 2 days. A lot of games have different levels of scope. This is a strategic game as compared to a game which is tactical, which involves 4 to 12 men per unit, and a turn could be 15 minutes. It's a very short history lesson. Rommel is a German general. He controls the Germans and the Italians. They held Tobruk. The British come, beat him, he runs away. Now the British control Tobruk. Rommel comes back, beats the British, and that's life. Isn't that cool? That's what this game is all about. And by the way, that Italian guy with the gun, that's actually my grandfather, who served in the Italian army under Rommel. So what you get with this game is a 22 by 17 inch color map, a rule booklet which is 12 pages long, but only 7 pages are rules, a small amount of counters so you don't have to bog down your game with all this information, a terrain effects chart, a player aid, and a 6-sided die. In this game, you're going to be learning stuff like zone of control, overrun, and stacking. You see that British guy? He's all alone, and all the surrounding hexes around him, plus the one he's in, that's his zone of control. And what does that mean? That means that an enemy entering those hexes surrounding him, well, it's war. Combat ensues and blah blah blah, you just lost 5,000 men. And when you declare overrun, your enemy, if he loses, gets pushed back a certain amount of hexes. And stacking, that's having more than one chit per hex. Sometimes you're allowed, sometimes you're not allowed. That's it. It doesn't get more complex than that, and it's a nice war game. Rommel at Gazala, a game designed by Jim Werbeneth, published by Lock and Load Publishing. And if you want to know more news about war games, please check out my channel, No Enemies Here.
So what's coming from the Dice Tower this week? Well, I'm taking a look at the new Unlock games, Secret Adventures, Cat, Gretchen's, The Champion of the Wild, Newfoundland, Shadows of the Forest, a game you play in the dark, Pacemaker Extreme, Teotihuacan, City of the Gods, Newton, Trade on the Tigris, Cerberus, and 5 Minute Marvel. You'll also see some other things. I might try to sneak in a live play this week. This week we're going to also have something interesting and new for you, but you'll have to wait and see. It's coming out later this week, so I'm not exactly sure what time it's coming out, so we'll have to talk about it then. Also, a podcast is coming out this Tuesday. Me and Suzanne record together, and we talk about our top 10 relaxing games, and of course, all the other fantastic podcasts in the Dice Tower Network, which you can find on DicetowerNetwork.com.
Hello guys, I'm Cardboard Rhino and welcome to one more Rhino Says Yes. I'm really psyched about the game today. It's one of my favorite area control games. It's colorful, it's exciting, it's Innis. Innis is inspired by Celtic history and legends, and the players are chieftains leading their clans from Ireland to a newly discovered land. The goal is to be elected High King in the new land. To do that, players need to achieve at least one of the 3 victory conditions. The first is leadership by having more figures than any other player in territories containing at least 6 opponents' clans in total. The second is land, meaning being present in at least 6 different territories. And the third one is religion, as in be present in territories that collectively contain at least 6 sanctuaries. Over the course of the game, players also earn deeds that can work as jokers, adding 1 number to reach the requirement of a certain victory condition. Each game round consists of 2 phases. In the assembly phase, players check for victory, determine who the new chieftains are in each area, and draft action cards. The drafting in Innis is a bit different than the usual. It allows players to adapt and take cards that they see later in the round that might seem more appealing. The second phase is the season phase, where players can perform their actions. They can place new clans, move them and clash with other clans or not, build sanctuaries, and so on. Innis is one of the best examples of games that are easy to learn but hard to master, and I love the fact that the game doesn't flood you with components. Replayability is one of its best attributes because of the epic tale cards and the many tiles, and I think no one can dispute that it looks absolutely gorgeous. The game allows you to pass on your turn and yet continue playing when your turn comes again, and that becomes a very strategic and tricky action. If you want meaningful choices and a bit of conflict, and you don't mind games that take several hours, then you're gonna love it. So Rhino says a big yes to Innis. You should definitely give it a go.
Greetings and welcome to the Mega Meeple. I am Thomas Grogan, and some people may say I have a problem, but what would you expect with somebody who likes to do board games? Now, at what point does a collection like this, and there are plenty of other people that have far more shelves than I do, but at one point is someone go from a board game player to a board game collector? And is it possible to be both? Does one exclude the other? Is there a line between the two? And where is that line? What do you think? Sound off in the comments down below. If you want to follow me on any of the social media stuff or listen to my weekly podcast, just go to the Mega Meeple website. It's www.themegameeple.com. All the pertinent information is there. All the links are there. Feel free to follow, like, subscribe, share, whatever. So until next time, thank you so much for watching.
Chris Renshaw here, and there have been a ton of games centered around 80s nostalgia recently. Maybe because of, Stranger Things, maybe because everybody that grew up in the 80s has now got free income that they can spend on games, whatever. One of these, though, that's caught my eye has been this, Tales from the Loop. It stands out from the rest purely based on the artwork. This is an RPG that was inspired by a Swedish artist that I'm not even going to try and pronounce, probably drop their name right there. There's a particle accelerator called The Loop, and there's a whole bunch of mysteries around it, and you play as kids that are basically exploring the town, getting into trouble, and doing what kids in the 80s do, chewing bubblegum, going to arcades, and solving the nearest crime. Because that's apparently what we did in the 80s, I guess. The game comes from Free League Publishing and uses their D6-based system, which is actually really simple. All it is you roll a number of dice based on whatever your statistic is and whatever skill roll you're doing, and sixes are if you get a 6, you get a success. They take that basic system and then throw it into the setting that they've designed, which is so vibrant, and just as you're reading through this, the world just kind of springs out of the pages. And I'm not the only one who thinks this, because it turns out a couple months ago, Amazon signed on to make a series based on Tales from the Loop. Right now, if you go to Kickstarter, they're funding Tales from the Flood, which is the second book by this artist, where it jolts it into the 90s, and some of the sweet innocence of the 80s are gone, and things are now getting real, and you're playing now as teenagers instead of kids, and unlike Tales from the Flood, where the kids can't die, the teenagers can. They're being irresponsible. So there you go. If you're looking for some 80s nostalgia, and you want a really simple system that you can quickly just get in and jump right in, definitely give Tales from the Loop a try. It's really simple. Have you played any of these 80s nostalgia games? Which ones are your favorite? Let me know down in the comments below. And make sure you follow me on all the different social media platforms. And until next time, may all your hits be crits.
Hi folks, this is Jonathan for Harsh Opinion, and today I want to talk about a topic which is annoying players. So here's my top 5 most annoying players attitude that I play game with. Number 5 is AP. I don't care about AP at some point, but when a player takes too long to play, let's say 5 to 10 minutes a turn, and the other players move quickly and it's his turn again and he stalled the game, I don't like that too much. It doesn't matter in the end because the player tries his best to do the best move, but at one point he has to move forward and take a decision. 4, it's player that don't like to lose. You know, it's always fun to win, but the fact is that when you play a game, the most important part inside a game, it's the fact just to have fun. 3, I don't like players who play with their phones. I hate that, because when it's not their turn, they play with their phones, and it's like they doesn't care about what's going on, and sometimes they miss something, and they said, I didn't know about that, but pay attention, let your phone down and pay attention. I don't mind if it's an important call to do, but if you don't care about paying attention and be like social about with the other players, then don't play the game. 2, I don't like players who are like rule masters. But when I play a game and there's a guy, no, it should be like that, it's in the rules, or the other way around, it's not in the rules, so we're allowed to do that. Let's say we have hidden information, and player takes a pen and pencil and write everything down, and because of that he's able to calculate everything. Kind of breaks the mood of the game a little bit. And 1, it's player with revenge problem. I explain myself. You know, when you play a game and you play and there's some interaction between players, and you do a move, and it benefits you against another player, and that player is gonna like get on revenge mode for the rest of the game and act like someone who doesn't care about you for the next 8 to 10 games, is gonna make everything possible to him just to make you suffer because of one bad move. I don't like that at all. So in the end, do you have any kind of players that you don't like to play games with? Maybe the same kind of players like me, or some other kind of players? So let me know by commenting on the section below, and see you next time, guys. Bye bye.
Hi, Mike Alicio from Solomode Games. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about Kickstarter. It was coming to me the other day that I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to how long my Kickstarter campaigns are going for. A lot of times they kind of show up, and I'll keep track of the emails, the updates that they get, and obviously I have to be on the pledge managers and make sure I get my surveys completed. But when I actually make that pledge, I don't often pay a whole lot of attention to how long it is until the project is going to get fulfilled. And I wondered if other people are the same way, or if people pay a lot of attention to how long a particular campaign is going to go. And so, thinking about this, I went onto my Kickstarter page. I'm currently backing 5 projects, and I did a little bit of math. And anybody who knows me knows that I don't do that lightly. Very not good at math, but I feel confident in these figures. The average of the 5 campaigns that I'm currently pledging for fulfill in 11 months. And so that immediately kind of struck me. It's right below 1 year. And so I do wonder if companies are cognizant of the fact that they want to keep their campaigns less than a year. It does seem like a pretty big coincidence, and maybe that's exactly what it is. Maybe it's a coincidence that of these 5 campaigns that they come in at just under a year, but I also wonder if there's a little bit of thought that goes behind that to kind of have the psychological idea that we're getting this in less than a year. So I wanted to get your thoughts. How long is too long for a project to go? And I'm not talking about projects that don't fulfill in time. That's a completely different issue. I'm talking about how long do you feel is an acceptable amount of time to wait for when it's being promised from when you pledge for it. I'd be curious. I wonder if is over a year too long? Is 2 years too long? There's even become a situation lately where you've got almost pre-orders being done on Kickstarter and they're being fulfilled within a few months. So I'd really like to hear your thoughts on this. How long is too long for a Kickstarter campaign? If you can let me know in the comments below, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day.
I love games, and I get, I think, more excited when an expansion comes out for a game that I have than a new game itself. It's exciting to see an expansion because you're like, how does this add to the game? So I love playing expansions, and I have almost all my favorite games I have an expansion for. Not all of them have expansions, but all the ones that have expansions, I usually have them. So we're putting a Dice Tower library together. This is like an ongoing project, right? And I'm very excited about that. What do we do with the expansions? What do you do? Do you add them to the game or not? So this is a decision you have to make, right? Does the expansion add to the game in a seamless way? Is it just more stuff? Those are the easiest ones. There are expansions where it's just like, hey, there's some more starting characters, it's a 5th player, there's some more cards that go in these decks. That's easy stuff to throw in. Even if it introduces maybe a small new concept, those are usually the easiest ones. Those go into the game, no problem. Then there's expansions that I like so much, and I don't think they add too much that I will always play with them, so they're just packaged in the game as a whole. Champions and Midgard's a good example of this. I'll never play the game again without Valhalla, so I just put it in, and even when teaching to new people, I don't feel that it's so overwhelming that I will gladly just teach people with that right away. Then we have modular expansions. I have, for example, Alhambra with 20 different modular expansions. There's no way I can put all those in the game at any point in time. So they're all in, I have them in a big box where they're all numbered, and you just put the ones in that you're going to use at that point in time. But those need to remain separate. There are also expansions that substantially change the game, which you may or may not like. A good example would be my very first video review, Merlin's Company, which changes Shadows over Camelot. It makes the game harder, it also makes it a little easier, but it definitely adds some wonky rules that aren't in the original game. And while I'm not necessarily opposed to these rules, the expansion's okay, I don't want to play with this all the time, so that needs to be in a separate bag. Then, of course, there's expansions where the cards are a different size and stuff, but that's a printing problem and all that. But where do expansions fit? Now, most people like to keep, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of people I know keep expansions in separate boxes. That's all well and good until you have to carry these everywhere, like here's the game and here's the expansions. And if you're a fan of CMON games at all, then you're carrying around big giant stacks of box after box after box. I just like to throw the stuff in. The problem that we run into when you throw the stuff in is when you are playing and you're like, I would like to learn more about this card. Where is it? Which rule book is it in? Now, some games are fantastic because they'll come out with a big edition like Smash Up. The bigger, geekier box came out, and a rule book that has everything in that rule book. That's fantastic. But not every game has that, so what do you do in those regards? I'm usually of the mindset that, well, it's my game anyway. I'll look through the main rulebook. If it's not there, I'll look in the expansion rulebooks and I'll get to know. But I can see how people would find that confusing. I can also see how some things, let's say Eldritch Horror, Arkham Horror, things like that, where there's a ton of expansions, you might want to just stick in one at a time rather than just having them all in there. Or Ascension or deck building games, instead of having this giant stack of cards, you can pull them out and mix and match. That's just problematic for me because I don't want to necessarily store all those boxes. So sometimes I think the expansion needs to be stored separately, but I usually try to smash them into the main box if at all possible, or in the rare occasion where the expansion box is better, put everything into that box. So that's what I do with expansions. I'm curious what you guys do with them. Again, this isn't necessarily a debate. I don't want to talk about, I don't like expansions. Great, go talk somewhere else. I'm saying if you're keeping the expansion, do you keep it in the base game? Do you just shuffle all the cards in and mix it in and just teach it all together? And how do you determine, if you do that with some and not with others, how do you determine what to do with it? That's what I'm thinking about this week, expansions.
Hi everybody, I'm Gil Mello.
And I'm Gabby, and this is Time to Play.
And what did we play this week?
We played Mechs vs. Minions.
Wow, look at the size of this box. I can just put it over here. Now I can do it by myself. So,
No thanks.
So what did you think about Mechs vs. Minions?
I thought it was a very fun game. I really liked the open drafting and how we were timed while we were drafting. I thought that made the game more intense.
Did you like the idea of programming the games? I think that's your first time you played a programmable movement game. Did you like the idea of moving the guys around?
I really liked the idea of being able to make your own upgrade. I think at the second part, I think I had the most upgrades than both of you and Camilla combined.
Yeah, because Camilla and I kind of, we decided to spread around, and you quickly got like 3 cards in, and once I got damaged one time, that really didn't work for me very well. It was a lot of fun. I think the board looks beautiful, and yeah, I like the idea. Were you okay with figuring out all your movements and trying to think ahead of time?
I think that at first it was pretty confusing, but then once I start getting the hang of it, I thought it got really fun.
Yeah, I think we need to play a couple more scenarios and see how it goes. I think we only played 2 scenarios, so it wasn't that difficult. It was hard, but not difficult, so maybe they will get harder as we go. So, all right, so this is actually one of my favorite games, and I love to play with you. We need to play that more often.
The only thing, though, that I wish that we got to do was open the box with the axe on it.
No open boxes.
You know I like opening
Yeah,
boxes.
no open boxes. Yeah, you have to play the scenarios, and that is a surprise. So you can only get to pick the little edge of the box.
Fine.
So what's your rate on the game?
2 thumbs up.
All right. Same for me. See you guys next week, and have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
2 brothers set loose in a thrift store. This is Thrift Store Throwbacks.
What you doing? I'm playing Titanic. It's like this little kind of puzzly game where you're trying to pick up people in lifeboats and stuff. I don't know. It's all right.
Seems like your main problem is motivation. Let's think about a cold, chilly night in the North Atlantic. Talking about April 14th, 1912. Everyone's having dinner. Boom! Collision with an iceberg. All of a sudden, everyone's in the water. April 15th, dead of morning. Everyone's freezing and stuff. And you're the one who has to get them out of the water, Nick. You're not motivated? That doesn't fire you up? See, to you, man, this is just some sort of meeple. Yeah, just some family in Michigan. That's someone's aunt who isn't going to make it to Christmas, man. I need you to take this seriously.
I am. I'm trying to get them in here.
They couldn't turn the boat that night either.
Fine. I want to help them. Let's figure this out.
Go ahead. I'm just going to watch. It's people's lives, man.
You're not making it any easier, okay?
I'm done. They're not going to make it at all.
You know, I'm not going to play this for you.
Alright, so this is Titanic. This is kind of a logic puzzle game. You have to move ships around to pick people up. Now, a couple things. The ships can only move forward, backward, or drift side to side. They cannot turn or anything like that. And there's this whole prioritization that a second that a meeple lines up with one of the seats on a ship, they're going to hop right in. And the second you get a second passenger, that ship is then going to stop right where it is and cannot move anymore. So for instance, I might have to go all the way around here to pick up this one first, and then come back around and pick up this person second, so that this ship can then go all the way around, and then boop, and then people can jump in safely into the ship. That essentially is Titanic. So that was Titanic. Boom. We're back.
This is our second Titanic game.
Second Titanic game. This is a fun game, man. Well, you're trying to put the right things in the right order game.
It's like a sequence little game. We did I think it's called Codemasters, the not Minecraft game. It was kind of similar.
It's one of those kind of Codemaster kid games, but with a really dark theme.
Yeah.
Like, there are people in the water, but like if you fail, they did. That's going to be it for us, you guys. Check out, we have a top 10 right now live on the Brothers Smurf right here on YouTube. It's top 10 games you can get for $20 or less.
This?
That was much less than $20. Until next time, we'll see you in some frigid water.
The frigidest
Kathy
of all
Bates. The whole movie comes down to the arrogance of rich white men when you think about it.
Yeah.
Today's nap time is brought to you by Patchwork.
Perfect baby nap game. Patchwork. 2 players. You have these Tetris-like polyominoes that you put together.
Okay, first of all, we all know polyominoes is not a word. Is that a word? Polyominoes? They're cardboard pieces. They are cardboard pieces. My husband thinks he's better than you with his polyominoes.
I didn't invent that word. So this is a great 2-player game. You're building a quilt in this one. You have 2 resources going at the same time. You have your buttons and you have time itself. And you have to manage both those things to try to fill up your quilt.
I like the organizational skills part. It really suits my type A personality.
Really, the only 2 knocks on this game for me are the pieces themselves don't always click together in a satisfying way. I think visually it looks interesting, but I think if there was a tactile click and it fit well, it'd be more satisfying to put it together. That, and there's a lot of little buttons, a lot of little pieces, so for a small 2-player game, it's a little high on the setup and teardown.
Quick to learn, fun to play, and yeah, we
We did this during nap time, so it's always a win when you can sneak a game in and all the children are sleeping. Hey Siri, what is a polyomino?
I'm not sure I understand.
She doesn't know either. Polyomino? Where do you learn this?
Welcome to The Pitch.
Hi, Ilka. I know you don't have a lot of time, so I thought I'd prepare some ideas for the Essen wish list.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
We already made over 280 euros on our auction.
Okay.
So that's going in the right direction. I hope it will go up a bit more.
Yes.
But so I prepared some games for you,
Okay.
and I'm going to pitch them to you.
So it's just a hard yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
First one, Cylon. An area control game. Players take on the role of pioneers who developed the Ceylon tea industry.
It's with tea. I like tea, but still I have to say no.
Okay. Ozzyland, a family game of tile placement, fast and beautiful in the wonderful world of Oz.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. Crazy Neighbors is a humorous game where the players assume the roles of residents in a suburban neighborhood populated by a cast of crazy stereotypes.
Humor is very subjective, Dave. We both know that because
That's
it's our
true.
job. And I would just say flat out no.
Okay. Coral Islands, Sagrada, Shiny Dice meets Reef.
You're luring me in with shiny stuff.
Shiny.
Do we know a mechanism or anything?
You're placing dice and buildings, making a tower of them, and looking at the pips on the top and on the sides.
Looking at the pips on the top. That sounds good. Yes.
Yeah, wow. Noises at Night, a 15-minute deduction game where you're in a...
Nope.
Okay.
No.
We talked in our first The Pitch segment about the rondel in Ora et Labora, and we called it flooping.
Yes, flooping!
Yeah, well, flooping is a game now.
No.
Yes, show off your aviator skills in flooping by making the aerobatics required with your buzz plane.
Flooping flooey. Yes, I say yes.
Okay, cool. The expansion to the network's executives.
Yeah. Can you say that again?
Executives.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
There is
that's a
also a small expansion to the expansion. Executives.
yes. An expanded expansion?
Yes.
Cool. Sounds great to me.
Okay. Chronicles of Crime, a cooperative game of crime investigation mixing VR experience and board gaming.
No.
Too bad, because I went all in on the Kickstarter.
You did what?
Hey guys, and welcome to the Tantrum House After Party. We just finished playing Pictomania from CGE. We're going to take a second to tell you what we loved, what we hated, who won, and how. Alright, so what did we like about Pictomania?
Well, I like that you don't have to be awesome at drawing, because I'm not, and you can still get a lot of points by guessing.
Well, I hate that being a good drawer and able to come up with something very simple very quickly, I'm waiting on everybody else to try and finish their drawings, and then if I can't make a good enough guess from them, I lose all the points I would have gotten.
I agree. Sarah did a wonderful job with her R2-D2, and even the palm with the tsunami coming, those are beautiful drawings.
So being an art snob hurts you in this, and you have to be able to decipher use chicken scratch.
My chicken scratch Game of Thrones.
I got it.
So people can get it, but...
Right, you do have to find the balance. That's the best part of the game. The balance between how fast can I draw this versus I want to get those other points and cards that are out on the table.
And there's one time, Will, where you threw a number, but you thought, oh, maybe Kevin had a different
one.
Oh, and you can't go back and take that number back.
Right, there's some nice gut-wrenching feelings of like.
But you don't have to play online then.
Right.
So.
Right, but doing it fast is the key, and then sometimes that causes you to stumble, which is kind of fun. I think the only downside that I didn't enjoy, this is a well-played copy. You can see it on the age of the cards. Anytime you have a party game like this, you're going to have some durability issues, and especially the dry erase and stuff, but I think it's holding up pretty well.
Yeah, it plays 3 to 6 players, so that's nice for a party game. It plays fast and quick. And
Yeah, it normally comes with pencils. We use pens for the
That's
video.
true. We should have said that out.
Oh, not dry erase, JK. And otherwise, I think I really enjoyed the game. I won, so that obviously kind of sways my
Yeah, if we played all 4 rounds, I would have come back.
Definitely, listen.
I think I was too far behind. There's no catch the leader mechanic.
Four 3
so
points,
my
Sarah.
0 points the first round, I think I'm pretty much out.
You could have just drawn well.
I drew well.
See you guys next time. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to find our video of the playthrough on our YouTube channel and subscribe to Tantrum House.
Hey there everyone, I'm Jen, the board game librarian, flipping some pages and pushing some cubes with this week's segment, From the Page to the Table. This week we're going to look at a book that was once canon and now is no longer canon. And if you know where I'm going with that, it is Star Wars, Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. So this book introduces one of my favorite Star Wars extended universe characters, and that of course has to be Grand Admiral Thrawn. We are introduced to a man who is very cultured, very appreciative of music, who loves outthinking his enemy, and we have these epic, awesome space battles, kind of almost unlike anything that we've seen in some of the prior Star Wars universe. I'd actually kind of like to meet Thrawn, and why has there not been a Thrawn movie? He's so awesome. So of course, space battles, I have to pair it with Star Wars Armada. So I'm not a miniatures gamer really at all of sorts, but I do have an affinity for Star Wars Armada. Again, you're having these epic space battles, and my husband plays the Empire and I play the Rebels, and we've had these times where I've just kind of been, you know, scooting my ship along the edge of the map there and trying my darndest to not lose. Here we have Thrawn Trip, the Chimera, and it's just so much fun. 2 players, 2-ish hours, although I think we've had longer games. We have another cat too. This is Aslan, and apparently he really likes Thrawn's ship. Really fun. I hope they don't do another Armada 2.0 like they're doing with X-Wing 2.0, but yeah, you like it too, huh? All right, that's it for this week. Happy breakfast!
Hi, Tom. Maybe you recognize me, and maybe you recall that I've been saying all these wonderful things about you and the crew, the Dice Tower, all the stuff that you're doing, that I appreciate your work and that I'm getting a lot out of it. I'm running a board game cafe in Germany, and I worship your opinion, your reviews, your inside information, and just everything. So I watch a lot of your stuff. This time you got me really, really angry because you made a bad review about a little game. And I don't even need to mention the name of the game because this is not important. What is important to me is that you have explained it wrong. So I guess you have been playing it wrong. There was some rules that you didn't interpret right. So I think this makes a different gameplay. And I cannot be sure if you would have liked the game a lot better if you would have been playing it right. I don't know if you would give it another go. That's also not really the point that I want to get at. I just want to say, please, if you really need to make a bad review about a game, double check. Make sure you got everything right. Make sure you have been playing it right. And if you still don't like the game, then of course bad reviews are okay. There are bad games out there. But to do both, give a bad review and explain a game wrong, that really crushes it. And I don't think there's a need to do that. So in the future, I am looking forward to more of your really cool reviews. I like most of them. This was the first time I got really angry. And I just wanted you to know that this time, Tom, you are wrong. Please do better in the future. I would appreciate it. Say hello to everyone at the Dice Tower and hope to see you soon. Bye!
This is an area where Tom is wrong often, right? Where I make mistakes when talking about this, and I get a lot of feedback on these. I will say this. I never ever just randomly quickly throw a game on the table and do it. I always read through the rule book before I do my overviews of rules. And especially with bigger games, I'm very cautious to say, do not use my rules as a guide for this game. I feel like people will often tend to, they'll say, hey, you said to draw 4 cards, but it's actually 5 cards. Or I get a few minor rules wrong but that don't change the game at all, and people will pounce on those to show that, yes, the game is bad. And hypocritically, I find that people only get upset over this if I dislike the game. If I make a minor rules mistake and like the game, no one cares. Now, that's not a justification. I'm trying to get the rules right. Mistakes are gonna happen. I challenge anyone to get rules right all the time in games. It's just not possible. I will say this though, 90% of the time when I get the rules wrong in a rules explanation, probably more than that, one of two things. Either it's extremely minor and doesn't affect the game at all, or B, I just said it wrong in the review, but we actually played it right. As you're talking and I'm going through the rules, I make some minor mistakes in the things. If I catch it, if someone says, hey, you missed a major rule here, I always look at those, right? Anytime someone says you made a rules mistake, I look at the rules. If the rule is something that affects my possible enjoyment of the game, I will pull the review and redo it. And I've done it several times, at least 3 or 4 times now, where I've completely pulled the review, re-recorded, or some of them I haven't even put the review back up because I need to play them with the correct rules yet. And for that, I'm very, very sorry. I apologize to the publishers and everyone involved with those. It's a mistake. If it's a super minor mistake that doesn't affect the game, in my opinion, or if I just said something wrong but played it correctly, then I'm not going to worry about it. This particular time is wrong. You're very vague and you won't mention the game. I wouldn't mind if you would email me and say about this game and such, so that we can have a dialogue about it and I can explain, A, I got the game correct, or B, again, it's like, I drew 4 cards instead of 5 or what have you. Many times someone says, oh, you were supposed to do this, and I thought, wow, you're right, I did miss that little rule, and if I had played that way, I would have disliked it even more. Realize when you go look through my reviews, well, maybe not this week, but most weeks, I like way more games than I dislike. And it's not good don't get me wrong, it's not good if I dislike a game and I got the rules wrong, because that's on me, not always. Sometimes the rules are that poorly written. This sounds like a big justification, right? And I don't mean it to sound that way, but it is important. I am trying my hardest to do this, and I don't mind the feedback if someone says you got a rule wrong. But again, most of the time, if someone says you mentioned this wrong, first of all, I'm doing a review, not a how to play. That's Rodney Smith and other people do a much better job of that. So if it doesn't affect how the game plays, I don't think it's as big of a deal. I really don't. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm sure I'll get like 5 more Thomas wrongs now. But if you have something where you think I'm wrong, send me it and I'll play it on here. It doesn't matter. Until next time though, I'm Tom Vasel. You've been watching Board Game Breakfast. Thank you all my contributors who do a fantastic job. I'll see you guys this week. Boom!
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at CoolStuffInc.com.